right. All right. All right, here we go. All right, here we go.
That shows to employers that you are a professional and that what you're doing is not what you want. That's a huge difference. They most definitely will check.
And we are off.
And B, they will see that
All right, cool.
reliable.
So looks like there's still no one here, which is great. And you know, hey man, if there's no one here, there's no one here. No, we got someone here on YouTube. Very exciting. All right, I'll be back in about 8 minutes to get started. And we'll kind of go from there. My guess is we won't get too many people today, but you know, it's early in the year. We're trying some new stuff out. You know, and I don't see an issue there, so kind of just get going as we get going. Chat. Q. All panels. Hey guys.
I can't find you on the live YouTube channel.
It's up. It's going.
Is Facebook working?
Facebook is not working.
I might hear back in the next day. If I hear back in the next 8 minutes,
but YouTube's working.
But look, you can see my YouTube. It's up right there. Cool. Please don't let that coffee over.
I will do my best. All right.
Well, I mean, there's always transitioning in film work. So Atlanta is the film scene in Atlanta is starting to blow up. Right? Have you ever considered or even dabbled in like post-production dabble?
All right, we'll get started in about 5 minutes here, and we'll go from there.
Post-production sound work would be that you're working the dialogue, and mastering the levels. It could be that even their hot houses have a background in not only audio engineering but actually creating and composing music. Hypothetically transition into composing, mastering, like a lot of places, like the good places still like to hire jobs. Won't lie, a lot of the smaller budget, lower budget places, they like to hire like one person for a call. But it's like more and more people are trying to come back to that. It comes with its ups and downs. It gives people more of a general, if you become jack of all trades, like manage your pitch, manage your ability to do whatever you want, but at the same time, it limits working with audio, visual, and baby audio. We can look at different. It will take a while before they start calling back because I'm here, but.
All right, all right, all right. So for the two of y'all who are here today, unless it's just me and Hunter, in this case, it's just me and Hunter then. All right, here we go. Getting a couple peeps in here. All right, all right, all right. So for the two of y'all who are here today, let's see, unless it's just me and Hunter, in this case, it's just me and Hunter then. All right, here we go. Getting a couple peeps in here. Thanks, Hunter. Making it all happen. All right, all right, all right. So for the two of y'all who are here today, let's see, unless it's just me and Hunter, in this case, could be running on a weird feedback loop. It's funny. All right, we're gonna get out of this YouTube business. It's 9:58. I'd say let's just start. Let's start making, guys. So if you guys are here in the panel, no, it seems like it's still just the two of us in this Zoom meeting. So let's see if we can wait. We'll wait until maybe a couple more people show up here. I'll start just by introducing myself. My name is Lucas Abend. I'm one of the Ableton mentors or tutors here. 2 minutes? All right, hold on. I'll wait for 2 minutes. I've been told to wait for 2 minutes, so we'll wait. They'll keep coming. They'll keep coming. All right. To the bottom. All right. Okay. I guess we still got 2 minutes. 1 minute. Am I ready? Here we go, 10 a.m. It's time. So yeah, my name is Lucas Abend. I'm one of the Ableton student advisors here at Recording Connection in our Student Services Department. And I thought it'd be fun today if we did a little, a little live stream, a little live demonstration of how to use Ableton as a sound design, a composition tool, a songwriting tool. Because I have a lot of students here at Recording Connection, and one of the biggest things I always get is, how do you start? How do you start making tracks? How do you start off? What do you start with? People, do you start with the drums? Do you start with the synths? Do you start with a sample? Obviously, I personally make mostly dance music. I make mostly electronic music. Very percussion driven styles of music. So, they are generally informed by the kick. So I often start with a kick, but I tell people in general, start with what you want to start with. Whatever kind of, inspiration that you can get, do it. Whether that's starting with a reference track, whether that's starting with something that's in your head or on that you made on a voice memo. The most important thing about starting a track is actually just starting it, which is kind of funny considering that I'm sort of stalling here to start the track. But I do kind of want to go over all this stuff first because I think it's really important for you guys to kind of understand these concepts first before we kind of go into like the music production, beat making side of things. Because first things first, just like any art form, I mean, there's been people who have done it before you. So there have been people who've been making beats, hip hop beats, electronic beats, all that stuff before you. So there's stuff that you're going to be pulling from, and you have to be okay with, with using those influences. That's what music is it's just a tradition that is it's uncut. We've gotten to where we are in music today because of where we came from. So you can use, old different genres, different styles, different, songs from your childhood, whatever it is that like kind of gets you going. That's what you should definitely try and focus on. But I digress a little bit. Really, all I'm trying to say is that, however it is that you start, whether it's with a kick or a drum or an idea, just start. So I think I'm going to do just that. So generally, like I was saying, I do kind of end up starting with a kick and a snare because that's generally what's going to be really defining a lot of what I'm doing. It's going to define just so much, I find, of, what the song is going to be about that, it'd be silly to not start with it. Now, that being said, I have some snares and kicks that I know work for me. I have a sample collection that I've been working on for about 5 years now. So it's the kind of thing that, what samples do I use? Which kick do I use? Like that kind of thing. Do I make my own kick? Do I, make my own snare? Sure, go ahead and try it. Also be totally cool with using samples. I mean, my personal opinion is you're going to want to make it yours in some way or another, but that doesn't necessarily have to come from, making a kick from a sine wave and a weird transient sample. Like you can kind of do your own thing. Again, I don't mean to digress too much here. But sample selection is really, really important too here before I, get going. I do want to give a quick talk about sample selection because, it might be one of the most important things as a producer, especially as an electronic producer, as a hip hop producer, these more sample-based genres. You want to make sure that you're picking the right samples because if you're starting off with a bad sample that doesn't hit, it doesn't cut, then that final mix isn't going to be very good. It's not going to punch. It's not going to come through. So, getting together a collection of samples that's, you know, that are really good samples is one of the most important things that you can do. It will help you out significantly, and it's going to come from, you know, whether it's getting that Splice subscription. You know, Splice is a great resource. I have it here. You can see I download Splice samples all the time. You know, and you know, people are like, oh well, you know, these are samples. There's stuff that other people have made. You know, it's true. And so what you have to do is you have to be aware of that when you're using them. It's cool though. Like that's sort of the idea is what, you know, what Kanye was doing with, you know, all these people who are sampling. It's cool to use somebody else's thing and then flip it, you know, and try and get something new out of it. That's really the key here. Now, I have some samples here that you can see, you know, from the internet, from Cymatics, from BWB, from, you know, Crane and Cashmere and Vengeance. These aren't all my samples, obviously, but these are sort of like the ones I keep here on my laptop because I know I really like them. So without further ado, I'm going to start off. I'm going to, you know, get going here with a little, you know, just a little kick snare pattern, maybe some hi-hats. And then we'll kind of come back and we'll talk about what we're working on, and you know, we'll go from there. So yeah, first things first, you know, let's pick a kick. Let's find a kick. So I'm just gonna scroll through here all these different you know, samples, and I'm gonna actually get rid of this up here, making the global quantize none, so that I can just scroll through and it will just play them immediately. It's a quick little trick that's kind of fun. So you can see we're kind of working with some kind of like trap future based producers. They have this nice you know, favorite kicks and snares back that we've got going here. That's nice. That's also nice. I'm going to use this, but I'm going to shorten it. I like the transient on this guy, but it's a little long, and I don't know if you guys have any subs or you can hear it through the YouTube quality, but you know, there's more sub here than I'm going to need in the end, but that's okay. And then first snare, let's see, what do we want? I'm going to write the snares in this pack right here. I like that like, where'd it go? Yeah, that's kind of weird, right? Because this is the thing. So now you're asking Lucas what kind of song you making, and currently I'm, you know, I don't have anything specific in mind. But now that I've got these kick and the snare, now something's coming to light. I'm like, okay. So hold on, what's going on here? Oh, that's weird. Get out of here. I don't know what you're doing. Cool. So I'm thinking we'll do, you know, some kind of future based. So, you know, the kind of thing that will, you know, that's one of the genres I make a lot of. I make future bass. I like it. It's poppy. It's fun. Electronic. It's got that weight. It's good stuff. So, yeah, we'll kind of keep working here. Let's see how we're doing here. Got 3 people here. Oh, cool. So we're just gonna make a simple backbeat starting out. You know, I don't know what I'm doing specifically. I don't know what kind of, you know. And so what I do, I personally, I don't really use drum rack. I don't really use MIDI. I use audio, as you're kind of about to find out here. Now, some people, they really like MIDI because it's a little bit faster sometimes when it comes to, you know, coming up with new, different types of beats. It can be a little bit better for that, but I like audio. I had a friend kind of show me how to make beats using, you know, audio samples just dropped right in instead of, you know, you know, MIDI drum rack. And he's, you know, there's it's questionable. You know, some people say you know, that MIDI doesn't sound as good. Some people, I've seen people use MIDI though, and it sounds great. So I can't tell you one way or the other whether those people are right. I can tell you I like the workflow of audio. I like the fact that you can do more with the sample, just like, you know, a little bit more right out the gate. You've got the reverse, you've got the, you know, the transpose, and you can do that per sample. It works really well. What's that? Okay, well, I don't know. That guy's talking at me. What else is there? What else is there? So yeah, so we're gonna just kind of keep building this little beat here, and we'll kind of go from there. So what I'm doing here, as you can hear, I'm just sort of placing the kick in some random spots, you know, see what sounds good. You know, so we've got that first backbeat, and then what I'm adding here around this backbeat, like here and here, is just sort of a counter to that backbeat to kind of lock it in into a groove here. And what I did here, I just did a quick little reverse snare, just to give it kind of a swelling action. Oh, here's a little thing that I want to show you. So sometimes there's an issue in Ableton when you do certain audio functions, and then you go to fades, it doesn't show the fades, which is really bothersome. I don't know if this happens in other people's Abletons. I'm just using my personal computer right now. Now, all you need to do is go back to the mixer and then go back to the fades, and then they'll show up. This one took me a while to figure out. So just wanted to let anybody else there who was, you know, having trouble with any of that business to, you know, all right, keep going here. All right, now what we're gonna do, so we've got a backbeat, it's, you know, whatever, it's not good, but it doesn't need to be, is sort of the idea. The idea is that, you know, I've get a lot of people, they'll, you know, a lot of students will come to me and they'll be like, you know, there's, you know, here's this beat, I don't know where to go next. It's just a kick and a snare, you know, and it's like, well, you can't stop there. You know, if you're not sure what to do next, you know, that's okay, but you need to keep going, whether you know what you're doing or not. You know, that's sort of the idea, and you're going to be that much better off when you do go. So let's see what we've got here. That's kind of cool. Some glass. And so what I'm doing right now is I'm just dragging in random samples, man. Like, you know. Nice white noise. You know, I'm going into these sample packs. You know, I know a couple of them, but you know, I'm just grabbing random stuff, honestly. You know, some crinkling. I don't know. I don't need all that. It's a nice one. You know, just different sounds, different samples, different little bits and pieces to you know, kind of help the song grow as quickly as possible, because you know, that's how you kind of get there. You give it some time. And some... Also, by the way, during this live stream, I will trail off. I hope that's okay with you guys. I'm probably going to get distracted, and probably I'm going to say some gibberish now and then, and just bear with me, you know. I hope for your patience here, so that would be great. Something tells me to do something. Want some, like, no, this is this will be enough to work with for right now. So let's see what we got. We're gonna do. Got this glass sample that I like. I like to do my snare pre-shifts with the glasses. It's doing this fades thing. I don't know why it does that. Go to mixer and go back to fades. That works. So so a pre-shift is when you like put some sound before something. So it slides in. Is that, you know, the before the transient sounds, and it's actually a really useful tool. It will create it'll make whatever sample you're pre-shifting just slap a little bit harder. Now, sometimes it can be a little cheesy, in my opinion. I think sometimes people go a little far. They get this very like overproduced sound with them, but they can also be really, really, really useful, and really sort of be the difference between the drums kind of hitting perfectly and them not hitting perfectly. So, you know, if you're kind of wondering, oh, why aren't my snares or my kicks, you know, hitting as hard? Look into pre-shifting, because it might actually kind of, you know, show you some interesting stuff that might help you out. You know, I'm just putting stuff around in random places here. There's nothing in particular as far as what we're, you know, what we're doing. Just keep going here. Okay. Yeah, I don't even know what this is. I'll put this outside of the loop here. And yeah, so actually, you know, I'm not really explaining very well what I'm doing here, but I'm using arrangement view in Ableton. I've got a 4-bar loop going here that I've just got loop enabled up here. And I'm just placing samples. I'm literally just placing them. I'm not even playing them out. I'm not, you know, I'm not using a beat pad. I'm just placing them on the map almost randomly. So that's sort of the idea, is like by adding randomness in the beginning, you'll end up with something different. Sometimes, you know, people have trouble. They end up writing the same song over and over again. You know, in order to prevent that, is I kind of can do it by just, you know, inserting some, you know, yeah, some random stuff into your mix, into your song here. So what I'm doing, I'm kind of like pre-shifting everything in a way. I'll show you in a second. You'll kind of hear it. I'm like finding samples that kind of have a swelling factor to them. As you can see, a lot of these are kind of very swelling shaped samples. You can tell by the shape of the sample itself, or swelling up. And that effect of swelling up into something really helps create drama, which is part of what we're looking for in music as a whole. We're trying to get drama. So you know, we do this. We work with the tools we have, and we can make it. So let's keep going here. Let's see what we got for so far. This is all way too loud, by the way. That's okay. Okay, so we got ourselves a little basic beat going here. So there's a little silliness, a little something. It'll probably get better as we move on. But just, you know, just that was a little bit of texture, just to kind of give us some idea of where we might want to go. Now, next step, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make some chords. generally when I'm making chords, I will use either operator, serum, or electric, or maybe sometimes applied acoustics. I'll use chromophone, just to lay down, just to kind of start off, with with something. And let's see here. Could just kind of start it off. See so we got ourselves a C sharp or a B flat minor. So we can work in B flat minor, also known as C sharp major. That's nice, isn't it? We're going to that. We're going to that. Yeah, when it comes to chords, and this isn't necessarily my absolute strongest suit, but I do know like a little bit, and really, you just want to listen to what sounds good. I know it's that's relatively unhelpful, but listen to what sounds good. Generally, what sounds good, not a lot of movement combined with a lot of movement. So like, you want to stay in the same place and then you want to move from that place, but you want to make it, those movements versus not moving very obvious. So we've got these chords are in similar sections. We're just taking a half step down here, a whole step down here. So it's like the kind of thing that, it sounds nice together with the chord that comes before it. So we've got, and then you can hear the next chord that wants to come because we're stepping down here. So, this is what the next chord that kind of feels like should be there. So let's try it out. Let's put the chord that we think should go there. Right, so this is a pretty little basic of a chord progression, but it's a live stream, and I'm going on the fly here, and I know that this chord progression is going to work, so I'm going to use it. What we're doing is we've got the 6, so we're in C sharp major or B flat minor, so either the 1 or the 6. I like to think of it in major because that's how I just think of my melodies, because generally future bass, you have those kind of like sadder chords, but then you have a happy melody, or you'll have a sad, sad melody and kind of like happy chords, because you want to have that contrast, that kind of like bittersweet moment that makes music kind of, really pop. So let's see what we got here. We've got a B flat minor. This is actually this is technically a C sharp major 7. Because we're just not playing the C sharp. We're going to be playing it in the bass here. So let me add the bass just so you can guys kind of hear the bass happen here as well. So we've got, right, you hear that major 7th. If I put this up an octave, you'll see this is the 1, and then that is ending up as a major 7. So really, this is first position major 7, as you can see. But I just had it sort of inverted, as you can see here. Oops. Inverted, so that we can kind of that's how you want to use inversions, right? There's 3 different ways to play a C, right? You've got your first inversion, bum bum bum, but then you've got your second inversion and your third inversion. And the reason why you kind of want to use those is, one, when you're playing them on the piano, it makes it easier, but also it just sounds better. The closer the chords are together, generally, and again, this is all, general speaking, there's so many examples where this isn't the case, but generally having those chords, especially in the beginning of the chord progression, kind of be similar, where we're just taking steps. It's the same fingering as it would be on the piano. We're just, we're going to step down here. That's what we're doing. And then we're doing a step up in the bass. So it's, right, it feels right. So you can hear that fifth that I just kind of put in there. You know, I think that that's is probably the right next note. You know, this is a 6-1 4-5 chord progression, which is a little bittersweet, but also you know, kind of poppy. So I think people are gonna like. So yeah, that's it. There's my chord progression. I kind of just found it just there. So like I was saying, this is so you've got the minor 6, the major 1, the major 4, but it's a major 7th. These are all, I'm throwing the 7ths on there just to make them a little bit moodier, a little jazzier. Future bass and a lot of sort of contemporary EDM has a lot of those 7th notes in them, those 13ths, 11ths, just to kind of make them not so cheesy, you know, because of the sort of instrumentation and the composition style of future bass, it can get very cheesy very quickly. And so by adding those 7ths, we're being a little subversive, you know, kind of making things a little bit more interesting. So I'm going to keep going here. And we'll maybe try and add a 7th here or like an 11th. Okay, so this will work for me for right now. I'm not saying this is great, but it'll work. So now next up, what we're going to do is I'm going to add a sort of a leading tone melody to these chords. Now this is going to be like you would play on a piano. You're going to be playing that leading tone with your right hand, those top fingers. Just to kind of add a little bit of personality to the chords, just so they move a little bit when you're kind of playing the whole song. So like this kind of stuff. So you're going to hear the melody I'm going for. Oftentimes the melody, it helps to repeat yourself. Whether that's the same exact melody or at least just some kind of similar repetition, you're going to find that it helps sort of solidify your idea in the listener's ear. So as we kind of step down here, we do the same pattern. It will help us kind of solidify our idea. So let's do the same pattern. So kind of cool. I like where it's going there. So again, this is just like the super bare bones beginning of it all. You know, I'm a half hour in here, but really I'm only like 10 minutes in. 15 minutes in. So, you know, we're just sort of starting to get going here. So if it doesn't sound like, oh, this isn't quite, you know, perfect song yet, like, dude, don't worry about it. Keep moving. It'll sound better as you kind of keep going. And the process informs itself. I get a lot of people who get stuck in the 8 bars here. And I'm still here in the 8 bars. You know, it's not time to leave yet. But, you know, I'll show you when it's time to leave and how easy it is to just get out of the 8-bar loop. Because I got to tell you, it's the #1 thing. You know, so a student will you know, connect with the remote session on Zoom and, excuse me, we'll take a look and they'll be like, I've got this song I'm working on. I don't know what to do. And it's 8 bars long, it's 16 bars long, and they got the loop around it. It's like, bro, the reason why you don't know what to do is because you're only working with, you know, 1/8 of a song, you know? So it's the kind of thing where, you know, you want to, you got to keep going. You got to keep going. Otherwise, it's not gonna make itself, you know? It only makes itself if you let it make itself. So what I'm going to do here now, I'm going to show you a little bit of Serum, quick kind of stuff. This isn't me sound designing my super saws yet. I'm not going to go into that phase until a little bit later. Right now, I'm just getting sort of the idea. So, and then I'm gonna make these bass notes here because they kind of need to be there. And then what I'm going to do, so you can kind of see I'm starting to clip the master chain here, which is less than ideal. I'm going to throw just a quick limiter and a little OTT. Now, obviously, don't put the OTT at 100%, you know, because that's going to end up, you know, screwing you up. I like the OTT just a little bit, like 15%. It's, you know, a little bit of that master feeling. Just helps me when I'm producing here. I don't really touch the gain here. This just limits everything I needed to limit, and we're good to go. That way, you know, at least we're not going to start, you know, the clipping on this sounds better than the clipping on this. That's what I'll say. So I'm going to go back to Serum here, and you know, again, this is my workflow. So if you work differently than this, if you're like, oh, I don't put the side shade on to the very end of the song, do that, man. You know what I'm saying? But I like the side shade. I think it helps me kind of feel out what I want from the song, but what else I might want there. So I like to put it in. Here is I'm actually I'm just kind of tuning the snare here, you know, to my sort of like. That's better. There it is. That's another thing people will often, you know, oh, why don't my kicks sound punchy? Why don't my snare sound punchy? Why isn't it really gluing into the mix? Tune your drums. Let me tell you, tune your drums. It will make a difference. You know, there's tonal elements within percussive elements. So, you know, it's not all just like pitchless noise. There's pitches in them. And you want to make sure that they're pitched to your song. Now, you don't have to do this in the very beginning. This is a very tonal snare, so I am going to do it. And it's going to kind of help me. It does appear to be about 9. semitones above the root note. But what happens if we drop this down an octave? So this is this -3, that's just an octave down from +9, right? It's 12 semitones for an octave. So it's very low. We'll give it a high. So and this is one of my favorite reverbs. It's Pro R. Really, really, really solid reverb from FabFilter. Just bright and modern, and just. So for CRM, what I'm doing here is because I want to try some different stuff before I kind of get it into anything specific, right? I want to try the different some different ideas, whether it's, that's kind of the idea behind Future Bass. Is it's sort of experimental in its birth, right? It kind of came from experimental future, right? Future is the idea of just kind of pushing that envelope a bit. And then, that kind of flumey stuff, he's just trying different things. Each new thing he wants to try something else. So it's like, yes, there are certain rules, there are certain things that you can do, certain supersaws that you can make that sound like everybody else. But you want to at least try to come up with something new. Even if this isn't the time, give it a shot. Try something that you didn't try the last time. So what I'm doing, I'm just trying stuff out, like I was talking about. I'm just experimenting, experimenting with some different effects. I like it better without the multi-band. Kind of sounds better. A little less biting, especially for this, this guy here. Kind of need that, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. So here's the thing, it's on the one hand, you don't want to sound like everybody else, and on the other hand, everybody's got that track music. You know what I'm saying? You want to play between cliche and pushing the boundaries. The more you push the boundaries, the more you can kind of take advantage of that cliche and kind of use that cliche to bring your song back into that realm of dance music and just sort of EDM, which is more often than not you know, I love EDM. It's pretty cheesy. It can be pretty cliche. So, you know, let's try using that. Ooh, that's a little hot. So we're mixing sections right now. That's totally okay. I'm just going to duplicate that, and now we're going to get rid of it over here. Probably duplicate this guy again, and this guy here. Because now, so I just did it. I just you know, escaped from that 8-bar loop. We were 8 bars before, and now we've all of a sudden we've got 32 whole bars of music. How did you do that? Well, we just duplicated time. So Command Shift D might be one of your most useful arrangement hotkeys. It allows you to duplicate the time, and so it moves all the other time over. So you remember I had all that stuff on the outside of my loop, still on the outside of my loop. It doesn't write over anything, just creates new time, which is very useful because it allows me to kind of put stuff where I want it easily in arrangement. Just making the whole thing cleaner and easier to work with. Because, you know, this first part is going to be intro, right? We want intro, and you want the breakdown, and then you want the build and the drop. You know, I'm probably not going to change the mold of, you know, EDM arrangement with this one. So that's okay, you know. Sometimes you got to change the mold some other way. Let's see, we got 32 bars here. Let's just play and see what we got. Probably not going to use Serum here. I'm probably going to start with like Electric, or maybe we'll bring in Chromophone. Now, Chromophone is made by the same people who made Electric. Electric was these people, Applied Acoustic Systems, AAS. They made Electric. They partnered with Ableton on their stuff. But there's this other plugin that they made, excuse me, Chromophone, which is very effective as well. It's kind of got a similar sound. You can tell their technology has a sound to it, but this is like a little stronger. I don't know. It depends. Sometimes I like the preset, just like Electric out of the box. I think it sounds good. But that's the thing, you know, you're gonna be using all sorts of different stuff, and you're gonna find out what works for you. So yeah, so we'll get rid of this for right now, but you can kind of hear how that's going to drop in, kind of be that like nice isolated sound, you know. Should be kind of good. Let me check out how it's going in over here, because we got nobody in this other one. Yeah, 6 people, cool. There's some people. Hey, nice track. Hey, thanks, man. All right. Oh, what was that other one? So you said adding a reverse tail doesn't make your transients any more powerful. It allows the listener to anticipate the hit. That's true. So this is what I'm saying. It doesn't actually make it louder in like a real sense. So it's the same decibel, same thing coming in. It's just the way that it perceives louder, right? So you get like sort of this idea that you know, sound is very much just like color. It's very much affected by what's around it. So, you know, if there's, you know, some stuff around your sound, it's going to affect the way that the brain perceives it, a way that, you know, the ear, you know, pushes back on it. So let's kind of keep going here. But yeah, you're right. The a pre-shift is not going to make anything louder, but it will make it sound more present in the ear. So let's keep going. Okay, cool. All right, and again, I am making this shit from scratch, so you know we'll see how it comes out. Just gonna try some stuff. I liked how this synth came in, but give it a little bit more movement, a little more emotion. It's gonna be very quiet as it comes in, slowly swells in. So I think this is where I'm going to drop it. 35 seconds in about feels right to me. So it gives us the intro. Then we're going to just do a quick 8-bar breakdown build. So like kind of catch them by surprise, kind of like that Matoma track. Just comes right in on that that drop. They've got a quick thing. You're like, oh, we're going to wait for 16 bars, right? And it's like, nope, we're dropping it right now. So I like that kind of surprise. I think we're going to do something like that there. Let's see what other questions we might have. Do you often work with swing, or do you prefer to keep the drums straight for future bass? That's a really good question. So swing is sort of this, the idea of kind of pushing stuff off of the exact grid to give it a certain feel. Will give it feel. Now, for future bass, for like, for the kind of, it depends on the kind of future bass you're doing, right? Future bass is a pretty big genre. Some of it's more related with trap. That's gonna use swing like a little bit more. I personally, either way, generally will keep my kick and my snare relatively, straight ahead. Now, again, it's not even true. I'm kind of lying to you. I've got a future bass song where I totally use swing. This one I'm not using swing because swing is a little bit harder. It takes like just a little bit more concentration as far as putting all the chords in the right place, putting all the drums in the right place. Because once you do that, it's you got to do it for everything. You can't kind of have to swing, if that makes sense. You really have to kind of stay on top of it and make sure that everything is in that groove pattern. So it becomes very time consuming, potentially. Now, it has a lot of payoff, right? Swing gives feel to a track, especially in something that's electronically based. That can be incredibly helpful because sometimes, electronic music can sound, a little robotic. So by giving it swing, by giving it actual human, like feel, you can kind of help get away from that. But I personally am not going to be doing that on this specific kick snare pattern. Now, will I incorporate swing into the song? 100% I will. And I can show you how I'm going to be doing that with the hi-hats, actually. Let's bring in some hi-hats here. Haven't done it yet, but we should get some in there. Let's see. There's probably some trap hats. Use this one. That one's a little. All these are like a little too trappy for me. Yeah, I'll still do it. We can always replace a sample. There's a great replace sample function that I'll show you about in Ableton anyway. So, hey guys, ooh, looks like we got some participants here. Very excited. Great to see everybody. So let's, I'll show you how I'm going to do swing right now. So what I'm going to do is, so I've just, right, super straight, right on the 1. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag the hi-hat. Now, dragging the hi-hat just kind of creates this push, this pull from the hi-hat and the rest of the beat, kind of, you know, it pushes it behind. It's like kind of like Q-tip style, just that or not, sorry, that Questlove style. Get my cues mixed up. You'll hear it. You'll hear it. So this is straight on, no swing at all. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to delay the track. So I'm using this track delay function. It's over here, the little D highlight box. It brings up your track delay, and the track delay is literally, it is literally a 100% dry wet delay on both channels, left or right. So whatever milliseconds we delay, it's going to delay that amount of the track. So we're going to go up here, kind of push this up a bit. And so I'm not sure if you guys can feel that. I'm going to go back to 0. We're going to kind of feel the difference between these two hi-hat patterns. We put this one straight on, and then as I push up this number here, kind of drags the song, which is, it's an interesting thing to do, is kind of the idea. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to create intrigue and drama. So I'm going to keep that. I like that. I like what it does for the track. Now, it's not going to be very loud. It's not going to be very obvious. But this is sort of a way to incorporate a little bit of that swing into our song here. So we can definitely... I'm going to get rid of the snare in this section. And the kick. Oh, so actually here's the thing. Well, hey, you know what? I'm glad this happened to me. I'm glad something went wrong, because now I'll show you guys how to fix it. So one thing I've accidentally done here is I've left warp on some of the samples that I shouldn't have left warp on, which is going to cause me, well, it's not necessarily going to cause me problems, but right now it's on tones, and this is not really a tone, is it? This is a reverse glass sample. I'm better off not warping it at all. Now, what it's done when I don't warp it, it gives me a little bit extra. So actually what I'm going to do instead, I'm going to do a repitch. Let me see how that sounds, because it might just repitch it up a little bit. There we go. Repitch. Easy. So let's listen to the difference between tones and repitch. That versus... So it's a little bit higher, but also there's like, you know, it's hard to tell with this specific sample, I'm not going to lie. But when I do tell you that, you know, it makes a difference. It's going to kind of sound better because we're not going to lose any quality here. So let's try that. There it is. unwarping all these samples because they shouldn't be warped in the first place. When your drums are warped, especially when they're on tones, which is silly, I don't know why, but it's my default warp algorithm, it can quickly ruin stuff, you know. So any upcoming courses using push 2. Hopefully, you know, hit up Ableton, tell them to give us some push 2s, and we'll, you know, we'll get them there. Okay, so it might not sound like it's coming together, but I promise you it's coming together. So what we're going to do, put a little riser in here just to kind of tell us where we are here. We've got riser 01. Now, this riser, again, you know, kind of going back onto, you know, what is cliche, what is useful. This riser is both cliche and incredibly useful. Let's take a listen to it. It's just, you've heard it in every single freaking EDM song ever. And it's great. It's a really good riser. It just screams tension, you know? So you're definitely using that to your advantage. It's going to be, you know, that's how you do it. That's how you sound like, that's how you get your sound up to the level of other people's sounds, right? Is by utilizing the same tools that they're using. If everyone is using this riser, it might not hurt for you to use this riser. Now, would it be cooler if you came up with your own riser? Yeah, and you know what? When I go to finish this song, if I'm finding that this riser sounds too derivative, I'll probably make a new one. What I'll probably end up doing is doing multiple risers. But this one, underneath everything, almost always works. I don't think I've ever had it not really work. You could always just kind of repitch it to the right tune, but feel it coming up. Feel it coming up. So that's going to happen. You know, this drop, we're not even close to there yet, obviously, but you know, we'll hear it out. We'll make it happen. We'll kind of make it pop here. So we're going to get rid of that. So the other thing we want is like kind of a bigger snare, kind of like a big, you know, I want like a something punchy. Actually, like that. That's pretty easy. So what I'm going to do, I like this snare, but it's a little bit too sizzly on the end. I am going to warp this snare, but I'm going to do it using beats. And the big difference you'll find here. So beats is another one of the warping algorithms that you can use in Ableton. And this is an incredibly useful warping algorithm, because what it'll allow you to do is do some transient design right from the clip view of Ableton. You just put it on transients. What that does is it'll trigger the beats on each transient, and each transient is the little gray marker there, not the little yellow thing, that's a warp marker, but where the little yellow thing is, there's another little gray thing, that's a transient. You can't really see it, but I promise you it's there. Now, let's take a listen. As I go down, in the as I go down with the transient here, we'll hear that the sample is going to tighten up. So take a listen. This is at 100% transient. It should sound very similar to what we just had. Nice, long, sizzly, but we want to tighten that up. So let's bring this down to like 25 and kind of like listen to what it did. Right? Way, 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 way tighter. So as we want to find the sweet spot. And we just kind of bring it up with that sweet spot until we kind of feel like we've got the sizzle and we've got the punch. We've got both that we want. And, you know, that versus this where it was, right? It's going to make a big difference. Also, you see what I did here? I pitched the snare drum again. This is really important, right? So if I'm at 0, right, it sounds a certain way. But if I'm at the right pitch, feel like it kind of just punches a little bit harder. It hits a little bit harder. So definitely. Also, obviously, you know, this isn't going to be our drop in the end here, but we'll get somewhere. We'll find it. You know, we'll figure it out. All right, here's what I want to do. I want to make another serum. I want to try some stuff out in this drop. This drop's not doing it for me. We got an hour in. We've got about an hour left here. Any questions? Definitely feel free to ask. We've got Hunter over on the YouTube stream. I'm here over on the Zoom stream. So, you know, ask any questions away, please. We'd love to, you know, we'd love to. So let's go here. So I don't like that melody on the drop. Obviously, that melody coming from the chords isn't going to do it for me. The one thing that might do it, we've got two options here. One is changing the pattern of the chords. Two is changing that melody on the pattern of the chords. So let's put it to trigger. And then, so here we go. So now, this is kind of that wobble. This is that Loose the Child, wee thin sound. I do this you know, quite a bit in my productions as well as Snugs. I find it to be, you know, it's got a great energy. This is sort of pioneered, like I said, by, you know, Loose the Child and that whole thing, but kind of been adopted as sort of just part of, you know, future-based canon. And so whatever it is that you can do with this kind of sound to kind of push the envelope, this is what people are kind of working with. I find it to be fun to work with, so I'm going to try and work with it here. And so what I'm doing here is I'm kind of going in and I'm stopping everything on the snare, and you're going to kind of hear how this really affects the sound and just makes everything a little bit more tight. Do you need to come in? Maybe not. Let's see. So it's going to kind of, you know, a little bit of that kind of millennium sound a bit. All right, getting a little. So right now, what you're looking at is not going to be the final super saw pad, right? Kind of that future bassy pad thing. This isn't it. This is just sort of what I'm using as a placeholder before I get into sort of the sound design section of my writing process here. So. get rid of the. Wrong spot. All right. Let me put this guy here, this little Atmo cat. And then for the drop here, I think I might just get rid of it. So I'm kind of just still going here. I'm just trying things, right? So I'm using the auto pan as a, this is a really awesome effect. This is a must-have, or at least like, you know, must know about. You put the phase to either 360 or 0. If you're using a sine wave, you need the offset at 240 degrees in order for it to kind of start on the 1. You'll hear it be off of the 1 if the offset isn't right. And then you just put the, you know, put it to lock to the grid with the quarter notes or the 8th notes or whatever it is. And it works as a great little tremolo, right? You hear it? So, you know, fun little gate effect. You can change the shape. Really awesome effect. But also, what's awesome about this is you can kind of use it as that like Nicky Romero sidechain type effect. Creates this really cool thing if you use a saw wave and then you click normal, where it says normal, changes it to invert the saw wave, put the offset to 0, and now we'll get sort of the sidechainy kind of pumping effect. Right? Kind of cool, kind of fun. So, you know, don't overdo it. It'll kill you if you overdo it. But if you do it right, like the, you know, around 50%, it'll sound really nice. It'll add a really nice, you know, kind of mix to your stuff. Okay. Do you also encounter the problem that you listen to your placeholder many times, you just keep it because suddenly it fits or belongs in the song? What keeps you critical enough? It's a good question. It's a really good question. So you know, when it, yeah, the placeholder, is it good enough, or do I, you know, do I keep moving? Does it keep, you know, do I keep moving forward? Depends. Definitely depends. Now, kind of the reason is because sound design is important for two different reasons. One, for inspiration for writing, but then two, sort of that final production, that final mix. It's really important that the sound design is done correctly for the final mix to be as good as possible. So you do want to make sure that in your final mix, like, you know, every single sound has been designed to its purpose. You know, that's, I would say, is like the most important part of the mix, is making sure that everything has its own purpose. Now, as far as deciding when something's a placeholder versus when something isn't a placeholder, that's going to essentially come in the mixing stage. You know, sometimes I'll do sound design sessions, just sound design sessions, and then I'll try out like the preset that I made in that session in a new song. But you know, most of the time I'm doing sound design in the session, kind of having it inform, like I'm doing right now, you know, like I'm doing here, right? We're sound designing. This is sound design. You know, we're changing volume envelopes with different things, right? We're doing it with a filter versus with the levels here, and that's going to make a different sound. I mean, this is, you know, doing that to the drive a little bit changes the sound, right? We're driving it a little bit. You know, we're putting chorus, we're putting flange around it. So these different things we're having effects on the sound, but I don't know if I'm going to be using this in the end. And I don't think I will know until the end. Now, what I like to do, sort of speaking of, you know, saw waves and such, yeah, so exactly. So this is like me sound designing, right? So I'm moving away from that initial preset saw, trying something else out, some a little more harmonics, a little more, you know, mellow color in it, and I think it sounds nice. Now, you know, so again, I don't know if that kind of answered your question, but you know, that's sort of the issue, is that you're never quite sure what's a placeholder versus what's the final product until it's the final product and it sounds good. Does it sound good? Then it is good. That's really, you know, that's an important thing to remember too. You got to trust your ear, and you got to trust your sense of taste. That is who you are as an artist, essentially, because, and you know, you can learn the skills. You know, people all over the world are learning these skills, all over the internet here. You know, they're learning it. That's how I learned it. That's how you guys are learning it. You know, that's not what's going to separate you from everybody else, right? It's your taste in music. It's your taste in sound. It's your taste in percussion and you know, beats and all that. That's your taste in that is going to be what's going to affect, you know, your overall style and kind of what speaks to you. So trusting your ear is really the important thing. So getting your ear good enough to where you do trust it, and to know what sounds good and what doesn't sound good. That's really everything. That's so much of it. You know, I'm doing stuff that already exists, right? 4-chord songs. This is a 4-chord song. 4-chord songs already exist. Future bass, it already exists. Everything I'm doing here already exists, but then I'm adding in these things that haven't been done together, right? I'm trying out different, you know, obviously here we're doing a tutorial, so it's going to be a little more on the, you know, the straight ahead kind of way, but, you know, you never know. You never know what you're going to kind of run into when you're working with stuff and kind of playing around, having a good time. So, you know, getting a little kind of crazy here, but so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this. I'm going to kind of like put So now I'm going to do a couple things that's going to just kind of beef this whole thing up so that when I go to do the lead here in a couple minutes, it's all going to kind of work together. So I'm just going to add a quick bass, sub bass here. And I'm going to, I'm just going to try some stuff out here with the auto pan, right, to kind of wobble that bass. So I know the notes. I know the notes of the root notes of each of the chords, which is really helpful. This is why knowing a little bit of theory and knowing those root notes is going to save you a lot of time and effort. So we've got that. Then we're going up to the C, and that guy goes over here. Then we're going down to the F sharp, and then we're going up to the D sharp. So, let me just do a little bit of something here. So what I did here is I put this kick tight preset on the hip hop sub bass. This hip hop sub bass preset, as you can see, I'm kind of using a couple of presets here, which you know, some people are you know, anti preset, you know, some people are pro preset. I personally think presets are great. Now, obviously, you don't want to just use presets all the time out of the box. It's not going to quite work like that. It's not going to give you the sound. And we were kind of talking about like placeholders. You know, these presets are placeholders. Now, using placeholders is a really, really important skill for writing. Or not skill, but tool for writing, because writing is more about the flow, the feel, getting it all out on the page rather than the end process of what the whole thing is going to sound like. You're going to write a better track using presets than you might using some crazy patch that you built for 4 hours beforehand, because you just spent 4 of your, you know, hours working on a patch. So you're probably not going to be in the mood to write anything. So it is my recommendation that you, you know, that you use presets to your advantage when you're writing, because it will help you to kind of, you know, move quicker. You'll move quicker. You'll get close to the sound you want, and then because you can always change sounds, you can always do sound design stuff. It's not as hard, I feel like, then, you know, I guess you can always write a new melody, but then if it's 2 weeks later than when you first started the track, you're not going to remember where your ideas were. You're not going to remember where your head was at, and it's just not going to sound quite as good. So, you know, here we'll keep going here. But I just, you know, I wanted to kind of, you know, touch on that. That's another big thing is like, oh, well, what should I use? Are there good presets? There are great presets out there. You know, part of becoming a producer is finding out which ones are the good ones. You know, not everybody's going to tell you their secrets. But I can tell you that they are out there. So, you know, don't get discouraged about like, you know, what tools to use. You can write music with pretty much any kind of instrument. It doesn't really have to, you know, it doesn't have to be perfect. Doesn't have to be the right thing. You know, and people will still be able to hear it, you know, and so, but if you are using Ableton, then you should have these specific presets, which do kind of give you close to, not exactly, but close to a good kind of EDM sub bass. The hip hop sub bass right here, preset, it's under the operator, you know, drop down menu, you go to bass, you go to operator, hip hop sub, very easy to use. Kick tight. I learned this one from a video just like this, from that, you know, Nightmare video. Definitely go check that one out. He's great as well, kind of showing you how to do all this stuff. But I find it just add some nice harmonics, right, to the sub bass, right, versus, you know, right. It just adds harmonics, adds harmonic density, a little bit of beef to the overall sound. So just allows me to hear the sub a little bit better than what I had before. Now, I'm going to try and do some stuff here, like maybe, you know, what happens if I make this into a... Because I think that's the wave I'm doing there, right? Or, yeah. So what does that sound like? Okay, yeah, oops. So we're gonna actually group these. I'm gonna put the side chain on both of them. Okay, so yeah, no. Cool. So we're getting a little somewhere. Let's try it. The other thing I'm going to do, just because you know, I personally like to hear the side chain. I'm kind of weird like that when I'm writing. I really like to kind of feel that pumping action that happens there. So here, ungroup this, my bad. So I like to just put it on stuff. Now this might screw with your CPU if you've got a slower computer. I know it screws with mine. I run into problems all the time with it, but I don't know, especially when I'm writing future bass, that side chain is so important to kind of that feel that you get, that, you know, I gotta have it. I don't know what to tell you, I gotta have it. So what I'm doing here, I'm just cutting out the, right, I've got bass notes in this. So I've got bass frequencies, but they're not sub bass notes. And these bass notes, I don't want any trouble, you know? Well, I don't want no trouble here. And especially after this, you can see the harmonic density up in the top there. It's not a perfect sub here. So and I want some of that grit to come through. So you know, I don't want these two to fight. So that's why I'm high passing these super saws so that we have. You know, some people will do a you know, a 4-pole here. I don't think that's necessary. I do like a little bit of that grit on the low end. That's why I have those bass notes in the first place. So So yeah, we'll kind of keep moving here. Again, this isn't, we're not perfect here, but we'll kind of just keep working. You're not gonna write a masterpiece every time, but let's kind of start on a lead or something. Now I'm probably not gonna be able to play anything out just because my computer is running a lot of stuff right now with the live stream. So I'm probably just going to be, typing it in. Okay, so now I'm also going to incorporate a little bit of swing or kind of like grace notes here. And you can kind of see what I do and what my technique is for that. So I literally just typed in this melody. I don't know if it's the best melody ever. Probably not. Probably placeholder, kind of like we were talking about. But, you got to start somewhere. That's the idea. Instead of worrying, is this not the right melody? Or maybe I should change it. I probably will change it. Make this one. Make the one that you're not sure is going to be good. Because let me tell you, at least you did something. At least you just didn't sit there switching these notes around for an hour and a half and still have a bad melody. Even if I have a bad melody, it's a melody. So it'll help my brain to be like, oh, well, now it needs, arpeggios. And so I'll be able to make the arpeggios, and maybe the melody sucks, but maybe the arpeggios are actually good. So this is sort of the idea, is that, not getting too kind of caught up on, how to make everything perfect is really important. You want to make sure that you just keep moving forward. Moving forward is the most important part. So this is, pretty lame so far here, but it's okay. Like I said, we are just. So what I'm doing now is I'm just sort of crafting one of my go-to synths here. I use Operator, create a little singy guy, a little jungle boy. Turn on the LFO, just a sine wave over here as our oscillator. Turn on the LFO. You can kind of hear where it matches the tempo. And then turn down the amount to make sure it doesn't really go above 10%. Sounds pretty bad above 10%. But without that, when it's low like that, it just gives us this nice little vibrato that makes it sound very natural, very real. Takes it kind of into an interesting direction. Now, what I'm about to do is I am about to blow this sound up. I'm about to just try some different stuff and really just watch it, dissolve. We've got this nice little, this thing, but I'm about to, try and make it sound horrible, like it was being, killed in another room or something. longer. So, hey, you know, it's starting a little something. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if we keep it. But yeah, just try to. So what I'm doing here with this lead, oftentimes in future bass, you'll get sort of this this bittersweet lead. I feel like that I kind of like this sort of bit crushed, reduced, oversaturated little guy. You know, he's got a lot of emotion in him. San Holo uses this trick a lot. You know, even Flume or, you know, all these guys. Just this idea, you know, Louis the Child, Ethan. An interesting lead. That's really where a lot of this sound design stuff is at right now. Kind of like, you know, what can you do with the melody? Now, obviously not the most interesting melody or chords or anything, but it's because I'm trying to kind of show you just the basics of how it all kind of comes together. And where I am getting experimental is the sound design. Now, obviously, you know, I got some producer friends who would tell me that I'm making some basic stuff. You know, this is been there, done that. But, you know, excuse me, whatever. I think that I really like this sound. I think it has a lot of emotion in it. And we're going to try some other stuff too. We're not going to just kind of sit here with the operator. This is my go-to lead. But I've got some other tricks up my sleeve. Speaking of lead, let's do it. Let's try and find the lead that I'm thinking of. Chorus pre-post. Yeah, I think this is the one. So this, I had a session with this guy. His name's Josh Segan, very talented writer. I had a session with him a couple weeks ago. We did a great song that we're going to be releasing as a part of Snugs. I'm very excited about it. Maybe I'll show you guys on another live stream. But he recorded some dope vocals here. You know, I choose. I don't need much, you know. I mean, just, you know, very, very good recording of a very nice voice. So that's essentially what you want to be using for vocal chopping, vocal samples. So great to see how fast you move through your ideas. I always get stuck at creating specific sounds or writing lines, and in the end, I leave the song behind because it doesn't work out. So this is exactly, Daniel Eisenschink, you get it. Eisenschink, okay. Exactly. This is sort of what I'm trying to, this is why I did the live streams, so that you guys can kind of see, you know, how to get out of that, you know, 8-bar phrase, right? It's like, just start going, you know, it doesn't, none of this is particularly groundbreaking or amazing, but we're still kind of moving forward here. Now, what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try this other melody that so that's the wrong key, right? Okay, so that's F, so. Getting a little much. It's so here's the thing. So what I'm doing right here I've literally had someone say to my face, never, ever, ever, ever do this. And I told them to their face that they were wrong. And here's the reason why. So I'm putting some over-the-top compression on a reverb. Now, in an audio engineer's world, this is the very incorrect thing to do, right? Just in general, putting that much compression on a reverb tail, you know, according to this guy that I was talking with is, you know, incorrect. But here's the real deal. The real deal is that it's all subjective. It's all based on how it sounds. And what we just saw there, when I turned up this reverb here and turned down the size and turned up this OTT, it sounds really nice, right? It gives it space. It's almost like a chorus effect. And I really like that. It gives it intrigue. It gives it mystery to the sound. Instead of just sort of being the sample that's being played in your ear, you're like, okay, I'm not 100% sure what that is. And obviously, like, this lead is lame. You know, this melody isn't particularly like exciting, but you can hear how there's, in the sound itself, there's like a little more kind of going on there. There we go. Might be kind of weird sounding, but be a little cool, a little emotional. You saw this guy, a little sausage fattener. Again, another sort of like cliche versus, you know, useful. This guy, very useful, right? Here's a tool used by EDM artists. So if you're trying to emulate EDM artists using the tools that they're using, right? That's the reason why you're using Ableton instead of GarageBand. So, you know, using sausage fattener to kind of fatten the sausage, definitely not a bad idea. By Data Life, they made a great plugin here. I've heard new things about their Endless Smile, sort of like a riser plugin, which is pretty cool. But you know, I haven't been able to get my hands on that one yet. But yeah, you know, using the tools of the trade is gonna be kind of important for you to sort of be able to be on par with those musicians that you are trying to kind of, get to. You want to be using the same tools that they're using. So let's take a look here. Here, see if you've got an empty MIDI track. I had already had it in my head and then I forgot to do it. Excuse me. Great little thing to know about. Not in the sampler, it's in the simpler. The Ableton piano. It's a great little piano. Where is it? Not tension either. It's simpler, so I don't know why I keep going in other spots. Piano keys, grand piano. Great little piano. My production partner does not like this piano, but I do. I find that its, toyish nature is endearing. So sounds nice. Little, nice. I think I want to hit this note hard, right? I'm actually going to get rid of the top line melody because it's the breakdown, and then we'll bring it back for the build up. Right? So I decided we're going to do one extra thing. We are going to kind of do the classic thing. There's a reason why formulas work. That's all I'm saying. So it's going to be get rid of that chord, keep that tension in there. All right, I got 15 more minutes. I can do this. I was born for this, guys. I was born. Let's see what this any other questions are. And then, let me just try this. Oh, yeah. See, you just try stuff, and then it just works. You know, that's the important thing. Try it out. See if it works. Beautiful. sounds all wrong, but I promise you it's close. Promise you it's close. This guy, again, here's another preset that I like to use. The reason why I like to use it, because it sounds really good. You know, I'll play around with it depending on what I'm trying to do, right? Sometimes I don't use the grain delay. Sometimes I don't use the filter delay. But generally, it's a great macro. This is done by Bassclef. It's free online. You can just go to Google, type in Bassclef's Easy Washout, and it's right there. You did a great job building it. You know, I'm sure that I could build my own washout, but I like this one, and it's free, and I don't need to build it. So it's like I could do every single thing that I'm doing here. I could, you know, potentially build my own of, right? There's all these, like, you know, but I'm not going to be doing that. I just want to write. That's the only thing I'm kind of concerned of right now is writing a good song. So let's try to do that. All right, I got 10 minutes, guys, 10 minutes. So I think I can do this. I think I can do this. I'm going to be building essentially drop, perfect. Okay. And then there's one more thing before this is really truly a future bass song, right? We need some time. I mean, so in this case, this is a case where I kind of feel bad about stealing a guy's sample because this is a guy that does future bass, right? Crane, very, you know, well-known future bass producer. So using this is a little bit cheaper, right? We just like, because you know we kind of know it's gonna fit in there. Now, let's try this. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use it in the sense of time because I don't want to go find one that isn't his. But I'm going to, I'm just going to kind of play the pitch a bit. And this will kind of, listen, for me, I have a personal rule, 20%. You can change it by 20% or have it sound different by about 20%. And as far as I'm concerned, I've done my due diligence. Now, some people have other rules. You know, some people, they like it to be 100% original sounds, 100% original samples, nothing, you know, kind of copied, but, you know, we can't always be so picky. So I want to go do. So. That's not working. Triplet. Sounds like garbage. That's okay. There we go. That's what I want. So we're almost there. We're just going to do this, and then I think we didn't get to this part. That's okay. I think we have that sync up here somewhere. That's a good deal. Yeah. All right. So it's 11:58. I did it. I made it through. I'm probably going to stop here. Thank you guys so much for watching. Now I'm just going to kind of talk about real quick, you know, what I've done here. We just sort of started something. I focused on, you know, writing. I focused on pushing through, trying to, you know, get to the end here. Yeah, there we go. You know, it's not perfect, right? This is the idea. It's not perfect, but it will get there, you know. And the important thing is that I started. The important thing is that I have stuff on the page that now I can work with, right? And we did that in 2 hours, and I was talking half the time. So, you know, the idea is that you can get through your ideas. You can, you know, push through your ideas, and you know, it's going to, yeah, it's going to help. It's going to make your music better. If you push yourself and just push yourself to finish stuff, whether it works or not, I promise you it will start working either way. You know, without any further ado, thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate your time. And yeah, let's hopefully do another one of these soon. Thank you for, yeah, what is he saying? He's talking at me. Yeah, okay. I don't know what he's saying to me. I can't hear what he's saying. He's mouthing words at me. Anyways, really enjoyed it. Again, this is Recording Connection. My name is Lucas. If you guys have any questions, you know, give us a call, 1-800-295-4433, extension 264. You can reach me here directly. Yeah, hope to hear from you guys soon. I had a lot of fun doing this, and I do plan on doing more of these as the year progresses. So hope to see you guys soon, and have a lovely afternoon.